Saturday, November 10th, 2012. O'Keefe's Port of Hamburg, South Hollow Avenue, Milwaukee. Dan Lozzi, Richard Brophy, and I, Caitlin Redding, climbed into Dan's car for a casual conversation after Dan's appearance at Hardcore for Hunger 5. Dan, we just got finished listening to your live performance. That was at the Port of Hamburg's facility, actually in the back. I'd never been there myself. And what an interesting crowd. I love the bands, all the different people that showed up. You brought some people with you from Springfield and Decanter. You have your friends from Massachusetts with you.
Mary Beth, she lives in Chicago now, so she came out too. She's really familiar with my material from back home. So
you have a lot of friends here, and you're building a base in Milwaukee?
Yes, I know Zach and all those guys from New Society of Anarchists. If you see a lot of my videos where it's a big crowd and they're very quiet, it's because I've spoken there many, many times. The Springfield, Illinois show, which I referred to, that I got an extra show last night. I mean, I just walk in there. It was unexpected. They asked me to get up there, and half that crowd, a lot of them knew who I was.
Wow.
Because I've spoken there for so many times. I've spoken in Miami a bunch of times now. You know, those are two examples. Right now in Milwaukee, I'm trying to plant the seed. And you notice a difference. You know, there was alcohol being served there. It's a little tougher. Once I get, in a little deeper and I can get on some all ages shows, definitely spreading the word and getting something going up here with your help too, hopefully. So
sure, Michael and I will do everything we can for you. It was interesting. I thought you got a really good reaction from the crowd.
Yes.
There were some little kids. I noticed that the parents were interacting with them, so I think the kids might have been tuning in a little bit more to what was going on.
Yes.
And you're kind of networking with local people here. So the band that you were with, the Anarchists, is actually a local band?
Yes, New Society of Anarchists. They're a pretty big punk band here in Milwaukee.
Okay.
Zach, the singer, put this show together tonight, and he asked me to come out here. He tried getting me out here last year. I couldn't do it. And so Zach from New Society of Anarchists put this show together. He tried getting me out here last year for his event, Hardcore for Hunger, and I finally made it happen this year, although it is my second time in Milwaukee. But anyway, if people want to get in touch with some of the local stuff around here, the activism, I mean, I think Zach's a good person to talk to, even if you're not into punk music.
No, this is the first time I'm hearing of this food drive.
Right.
And actually, I think people, who are in the know, who are into music, understand that the punk rock scene has always been at the forefront of political activism. That might come as a shock to some people, but it's really quite true. And this is a wonderful example because they're inviting you. They're seeking you out to come and do motivational speaking to their crowd.
And Zach saw me speak in Springfield, Illinois. Again, we're hearing that town a lot lately. That name has come up a lot in our conversations today, just because that city has been really, really good to me. I've built up a good crowd. Right. I've seen the house. And ironically, Springfield, Missouri is another hot spot for me. I do very, very well in Springfield, Missouri.
Did you know that the most common city name in the United States is Springfield, and that most states have 2 or 3?
Everyone thinks that the Simpsons are from their state. Everyone thinks that, and we have Springfield, Massachusetts, and it's a very common name. I've seen a lot of Springfields, Cantons, Pembrokes, all of which Massachusetts have.
Sure.
But anyway,
that's great.
Yeah, but
just a little levity.
Right. But anyway, I met Zach, and right away he said, "Listen, I do this thing every Thanksgiving around that time. Would you come out?" Couldn't work it out last year because, of course, I live in Massachusetts. I can't just come to something like this.
No, it's a few hours.
Right, it is. It's a good drive. And but what happened was, but the funny thing is, I did come to Milwaukee though. When I was on tour, through Zach's connections, his wife had me speak at the Brood Cafe.
Okay,
that went well.
That's actually a coffee place, not alcohol.
And there was Chet who put me in touch with you guys.
Right,
okay?
with Michael.
So now you can. But do you see, Caitlin, what I mean? That night at the Brood Cafe, it wasn't a big show. And everyone kept apologizing to me, saying, "I wish there were more people. I go, guys, listen, all I need is you crack the window open for me a little bit. Now, from that one show, I've been on your radio show.
Yes, you have.
You're talking to me about doing other gigs out here. Look at the crowd there. You know what I mean? There's a good crowd in there tonight. All I need is that window to crack open, and then I can make it happen after that. So anyway, as far as people wanting to get involved, like you said, the punk rock scene is a good starting point.
It really is.
Even if you're not into the music.
Absolutely.
Right, because it's so
people talk outside the door.
Active. And if you hear what I said in there, I said, look, I have so much respect for the punk scene because the rock and roll bands of the 60s, if you notice I said this in here, they were political because they had to be political.
Right.
They had to be. Something had to be done. Punk is political because they want to be political. You know what I mean?
So you're saying that they're actually looking to help empower people.
Yes.
And I can see that, the punk rock group.
What I'm saying is the Vietnam War is over.
Right.
But these guys, now obviously there's still wars and big things going on in America.
But not to the level of
right, not like what happened
activism.
in the 60s. But my point is, it doesn't matter. I mean, everything could be fine and dandy right now, and the punk scene's still going to say something.
Absolutely.
They're still going to be pushing the agenda. So, but anyway.
That's fascinating, really.
Right. Well, now the thing with me is, I don't know personally a lot of, I know New Society of Anarchists has websites and stuff. I don't know them off the top of my head. However, I can put you in touch with Zach. Anybody can go to my website.
Yeah, Zach sounds like a good person for me to have on to tell people in Milwaukee
and I
what
think
to
you
do,
should
where
have
to
him on.
go.
I really think you should have him on. Also, now, they're not in Milwaukee, but they're a heck of a lot closer than I am. No More Victims, right, who was here tonight.
Yes, Springfield and also Decanter.
Right,
Yep.
and the thing with Kelly is, I mean, she's one of these people, I mean, if even if you're in Milwaukee, if you're having a problem, you call her, she can right away, I mean, she's given me like tons of pamphlets of different cities where I'm going with like help for people if they're suicidal, they have problems, or they're being abused. So their link is on my website.
Right, and she's going to talk to us. She's going to speak to us in a couple weeks in a live interview.
Right.
But the thing about Kelly that's amazing is that no matter where you live, she gives you her home number. She says, call me.
Yes.
I will find you help. If you need help, I will find it for you and I will get it to you.
Right.
And that's amazing.
Right. Well, I'll tell you something that's more amazing. And this isn't a secret. I know it's okay for me to say this because Kelly's very open about it. She talks about it on stage. Kelly was not in good spirits when I first met her, and she has told that story on stage. She's written about it. You can ask her about it if anyone in the audience, you can ask her. She's very open about it. She told me, she's given me permission to say whatever I have to say about our relationship. When I first met her, she talked about how her husband was seeing me speak. He ran and grabbed her, said, "Get down here, come see this." And she wasn't doing well when I met her. And she's come a long way. I mean, if you guys saw her a year ago, I mean, to see what she's doing now is just amazing. She turned her life around, so she is a great person to talk to if you're having problems. And her husband is too, and they got LogiK, the spoken word poet.
Yes.
He's really good.
He was amazing.
Yeah, he's an awesome dude. I mean, he opened up for me every night of my tour.
Wow.
He's just, I always said to people, I'd get on stage and I'd be like, all right, he's the one with talent. Now you're going to just listen to me ramble for a few minutes. Because he rhymes and he's got poems and I'm just
and he's
yelling about whatever.
Really right to the core.
Right. But he's just really talented. I mean, I don't have the talent and I'm more like yelling about stuff. But I don't know, I guess there's
Sounds like Michael.
Yeah, I guess there's some poetry to that too, but who knows. We talked about No More Victims. Right, we're on now?
Yeah. Okay. We were talking about Kelly.
Yes.
And about how she'll help you anywhere.
Yes, and she'll help anywhere. And like I said, she is the person to talk to. Because
That's amazing what she does.
Yeah, do so much. But her husband's been through it too. LogiK's been through it. They've all been through it. I have too. And I'll tell you this, and I can't say it enough. I don't say, when I talk about the problems I've had in the past, I don't say it to be theatrical. I'm not a cop. I'm not a school teacher. I'm not your parent. I'm not trying to be like, hey guys, get high on life. Stay out of trouble. Listen to me. I'm your buddy.
Trying to be spanked.
Right. I'm not your friend. I'm some dude who got lucky that people listen to me. When I tell you something happened to me and I tell you I understand, I mean that. I understand. I've been through stuff. I've been through depression. So people can email me. Kelly's great. She does a lot. She is the girl to go to. But if you can't get in touch with her, you don't want to talk to her. I mean, people email me too from all over the country. You can email me if you got problems. I write back to everybody. There may come a day when I'm too overwhelmed with all this, where I'm getting, because every day this has gotten bigger and bigger.
But you have other people with you as well. Right. Eventually more people will be helping.
Right.
And you brought people with you. Now, they came from Illinois to come up to Milwaukee this Saturday night. But you also have people you brought with you from Massachusetts.
Yes, and one of them sitting with us right now. I got
Gotta
Andy.
Give a shout out
to Rick. We'll get to Rick in a second. We can talk to him too if we want. Well, I got Andy Pelletier, who, it's funny, Andy's specialty is the short distance tours, the little short distance mini tours. A lot of times when I go to New York and New Jersey and I need a co-pilot, it's weird, he tends to come with me to a lot of those. Almost every time I do Northeast stuff, he's always with me. And Andy's got a daughter too, so that's probably sometimes it's a little rougher for him to get out farther away, but he is with us tonight. Andy's been a huge help to me, Andy Pelletier. But my main co-pilot I got sitting here with us now, Rick Brophy. I'll just give you a little history on Rick.
Rick, say hi.
Say hi, Rick.
Hello, how is everybody?
Otherwise people won't believe that you're here.
Yeah, he's here.
Yeah,
Well,
I'm in the flesh.
I'll tell you what, if anyone checks out my website, he is the guy you see that usually gets up for a couple minutes and says a few words before I get up.
Right. And
he introduces me a lot.
Right.
And the reason we do that, I'm not trying to make a big scene, like a big introduction entrance. It's not that at all. If he doesn't, if I just get up, I've tried it before, if I just start talking, it's too awkward.
Right.
And we gave up on that, and I said, Rick, from now on, you got to introduce me. If he's not with me, if I can't bring him with me, I got to find someone at the show.
Sure.
Put it this way, if Rick wasn't with me and Andy wasn't with me, I'd have to ask Zach to do it. Okay,
or someone I could have stepped up too. But someone who knows what you do.
Right, but Rick's significance, two things Rick did, two major things. He was the first person ever to book me on a show.
Wow.
He started
Way
it.
to go,
Yeah. It was his idea. 2007,
wow.
Rick, the summer 2007.
2006.
No,
summer.
it was 7, Rick. I promise you. It was 2007.
Wow.
It was the end of the summer. It was his idea, but the funny thing is there was a little telepathy going on with us because I know I might have maybe ran the idea by him of me possibly speaking at these types of shows as opposed to speaking at schools and stuff like that or coffee houses. I may have ran the idea. If I did, which I can't even confirm that, it was said quickly and it was not talked about again for months and months. One day he came to me and just out of nowhere was like, I was thinking, I got this show going on, you should come talk at it. And at that point, I was really heavily entertaining that idea. So it was really weird how it came together.
Wow.
Now, I had already started the Outlook. You ready for this?
Okay.
I started it in 2004. So I had for 3 years, all it was a website that people around the South Shore knew about, South Shore, Massachusetts. When he got me on that show, overnight, suddenly now, because there was close to 100 people at that show.
Wow.
Overnight, Caitlin, I suddenly now had an audience of about 100 people.
Wow.
The second thing he did, which changed the whole course of this, he got me on my first tour. It was his idea to get me out on a tour.
Wow.
So my first time in the Midwest was from him.
So Rick's the guy to go to, or he's the go-to guy. He's the brains.
Right.
He
has been.
GPS.
Yes. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You got that.
Right. And
so what do you think of all this, Rick?
go ahead, Rick.
Well, to be honest, my entire life has revolved around hardcore.
This type of music.
Punk rock.
Yeah.
Punk rock and metal and grind and cross, whatever it may be. I even like hip hop.
Sure.
I like different styles. I can listen to Hall & Oates. I can listen to Deicide. I can listen to Colin of Arabia. I can listen to Bulldoze.
So you're a very open-minded kind of guy.
I listen to.
So you were ready for a Dan Lozzi then. Sure. Way to go, Rick.
Well, I thought of it and I said, usually it's just band after band after band, and we need to mix this up. We need to be a little bit more diverse.
Sure. And of course, you'd instantly think of a motivational speaker, right?
But he also saw a built-in audience because I used to play in a band and I wasn't coming out much. And go ahead, Rick.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
here's this dude who was in 7 Day Curse.
My old
These
band.
guys are gonna really dig
Oh.
this. And 7 Day Curse, along with bands like The Automata and, League of Pain and Black Belt, they were all very big foundations in our area, earlier on. And then when all the different bands disformed and broke up, and we ended up with kind of a bastardized scene,
Okay.
But the South Shore was really booming at the time. And I said, it's time for a change. It's not time for something new. We need something newer. We need to, do something good. But rather than have, everybody volunteer at, a homeless shelter. Everybody volunteer.
The cliche stuff,
You know,
which is
the same
okay.
thing I said.
We're not
Well, it's
knocking
good for-
it,
yeah, it's
but we
good for
wanted
some
something
people.
different from the
We
cliche.
gotta do good,
No.
but we also need to get rid of the bad or make people think.
Right, you need to approach things in a new way or you're
Yes.
really not helping. I get it.
So
I get that.
Here comes Dan, and I said, Dan, I've known you for a while now. You've been hanging out at these, events and parties and observing things and such. I said, I think it's time for you to get up there. And he said, you know what, Rick? He says, I really do too.
Wow.
And ever since then, we've been through so many tribunals and tribulations. He's been applauded to the heavens, on
and now
one
just
end,
another one tonight.
and then and then other times he's been dragged to hell.
Right.
Okay.
He has, but very few times he been really dragged down, because it's been there's always that one person who's very, very stubborn and hard to, it's hard for them to have a conversation with somebody and see both sides of the story.
Okay.
So they kind of just go after him you're wrong, you're a terrible person, this and that. But
then there's a dialogue.
The majority of the show,
Okay.
even the person who has had the worst cross to bear in life comes along and goes, you need to calm down because what he's saying is right. And, he'll go up there and rip apart alcohol, and it's usually the biggest drunk defending him, thinking, what am I doing with myself?
And what Rick's talking about too is, right now things are going very, very well. They have been this whole year, but in the beginning, it was a rocky start.
Yes.
He'd book me in the biggest bars we'd purposely say, this is where the bad things are going on. This is where kids are drinking and driving.
Right.
Let's go here. It took a while to establish an audience in those places.
I
Eventually,
believe it.
we did it. We pulled it off, but it didn't happen overnight. And the funny thing is, we used to hang out. There was a party spot. I won't name anyone back home, but we'd go to these there was this one place where there was just these crazy parties. And me and him, every time I saw him at this place, my buddy lived there, we'd go out on the back porch. While all this debauchery was going on, me and him would be out back plotting this movement which was going to speak out against all this stuff.
Wow.
So it was really an irony. Because like I said, I don't drink or smoke. I don't get into any of that stuff. But I have friends. I don't judge people. I hang out with who I hang out with. I don't shut anyone out of my life. And I'd find myself at these places in the corner talking to myself. And Rick would be like, let's go outside. We'd sit in the back porch. A lot of this was plotted out for a few months
Wow.
before we finally made a move.
Wow.
So now,
Amazing story.
the diversity with it, you have Dan, who is vegan straight edge. You have me, who is into obviously legalized
lifestyle.
substances,
Right.
alcohol
and you'll eat a
and
cookie once in a
nicotine.
while.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
Wow.
But it's just kind of it's very hard for people to believe. They're like, well, how does this guy have all these different, people who did these different characters?
Can I say something quick?
supporting him,
Continue in a second, Rick. A lot of people are very confused and baffled back home with how me and Rick can be friends. There's a lot of people that doesn't sit well with. They
Are you
just
serious?
They don't get
There is a
because
lot.
me and him live very, very different lifestyles.
Oh, wow.
And he is the last guy you'd ever expect to help me with this. But continue, Rick.
I
I'm
should
sorry.
say you
At the
look
same
like you're in
time-
your natural habitat.
Well, yes,
Yeah,
you
but we
get-
got a system
but-
down.
But
Yeah.
after a while, it gets different. You get tired of sitting at the cool kids table,
Uh-huh.
which is a very, even in hardcore, there's always a sect, especially in our state, very closed-minded group. We tell you how it's going to go, and that's the way it's going to go. You get tired of that and saying, you know what? to hell with it. And you go out and make a change. You do something different. Even
sure.
You could do, basically whatever you want. If you're the guy who, wants to wrap himself in barbed wire and throw himself through a table, I mean, great. But you're also helping teach children, on a private note, how, the dangers of maybe cocaine and binge drinking are bad,
This is an interesting crowd.
Diverse.
Now, my observations were today that there are a lot of tattooed people and a lot of people with body piercings.
Absolutely.
So this is a group that I would think is pretty hard to impress. I mean, these people have done things that cause a lot of pain and are a very different statement they're making, and a very forward statement. You really can't hide a ring through your nose or something like that. So when you're dealing with a very diverse and really dynamic group of people that aren't going to be your normal cell.
Yes, ma'am.
So this must have, I can sort of see where some of the bricks in the way might have been, and some of the walls you would have had to knock down. But what a dynamic, what a fascinating place to start, Dan. Really, and what foresight for you, Rick, to put this together. And this is really what it's about. This is grassroots at its finest.
And again, Kayla, it's like, look at what we've done. I mean, I have, me and him have been all over the place. I mean, this was a little tiny thing that started. And it's like, this has been international now. I mean,
you're going hundreds of miles.
I'm going back to Europe, and it's like, I already know I'm going to be speaking in Belgium and the Netherlands.
Oh my gosh.
I got a girl coming with me who's going to introduce me in their language. She knows multiple languages. And, it's like, it's ridiculous. Sometimes I just sit here like this, and I'm like, I'll look at my globe in my bedroom, and I'm like, wow, like, that's weird. I can't,
how did the world become so small?
I've drove through the desert. Drove into the desert doing this stuff, and it's just, it's weird. It's different. It's cool, and but that first night he booked me, that was a slam dunk. That was the beginning of the end. That was like, I woke up the next morning. Suddenly, this thing I had done for 3 years, and tops 30 people know about it. Tops, right?
Wow.
Suddenly, overnight, Rick, I woke up that next day, dude.
You did.
And I had 100 new kids, like 100.
I believe you called me that day around maybe 2:45 in the afternoon, because we had that show on a Thursday night.
Right, it was a weeknight.
A Friday. I had that Friday off, and you had said, you were getting emails
the next day,
and you were getting MySpace.
We had a MySpace page at that point.
Okay.
Suddenly, all these kids were adding the Outlook MySpace page.
Wow, that's fascinating. That's just amazing.
I'll tell you another funny quick story. There's a band, Calling of Arabia, back home, and Mike Carson. Is Mike still in Calling of Arabia?
Yeah, I believe Michael.
Right.
Michael's still playing.
Mike was the one who got me to do social networking with this, and that was another slam dunk. He's like, you need a MySpace page for the Outlook, and I'm like, I don't do any of that stuff. I don't touch it. He was another one. He was right. We started that MySpace page, and it was like, next we had a YouTube channel, then a Facebook page, and a live journal.
I keep saying, wow, I got to find another adjective.
Right, but it was like,
terrible.
He grabbed me.
Moly.
I remember going into Mike's work, Rick, in Cumberland Farms there, or the Tri-Town Pizza. He was getting mad at me because I didn't want it. One day he grabbed me by the shirt and sat me down at his work. He's like, come see me at work. And I'm like, he jumped out from behind with his apron, his pizza apron. And he's like, listen, dude. He's like, shoves this paper in my face. He's like, these are your passwords. I built the MySpace page for you. The first logo I had, the Massachusetts logo, he got a girl in Hingham or something to do it. I've still never met her or thanked her, but that became the first logo.
Well, you thanked her by using her art.
Right, but I didn't make that up. That Massachusetts silhouette was somebody else put that together, made me have this thing. And listen, at first I'm like, whatever. Then one day I got a message from a girl who was in Serbia, somewhere around there, Eastern Europe, and I'm like, all right, Mike was right. I go, this is not a joke. And then I started getting kids from China were putting the Outlook in their top friends.
Wow,
keep in mind,
mind-blowing.
China censors political groups.
Yes.
Now,
but you're not, are you? They would, if you're coming in on a punk rock wave.
Well, what I did was, either way, I came in under the disguise of MySpace.
Okay.
They might anything with dissonant ideas they block out. But at the time, they weren't blocking out MySpace. Apparently.
Haven't figured it out
now,
yet.
here I had my MySpace political, or whatever you want to call it, right? And I couldn't believe it. A kid sent me a message written in Chinese, and I wrote back, I'm like, listen, man, thank you. I don't know if you can understand this, but I don't read Chinese.
Oh, but your computer had a translator
I didn't know at the time. I mean, who knows? But he wrote back. No, you know what it was? No, I take that back. He was writing to me in English, but his friend, who he told his friend about me, wrote to me in Chinese. I said, listen, dude, you got to tell your friends I don't write like that. And he wrote back, oh, okay, I'm sorry, I'll explain. I'm like, you got to translate for me. So, you know, but wacky stuff like that happened. I remember the first time I got a YouTube comment from a kid in New Zealand.
Oh,
and I was just like, wow, man, this is like pretty
very impressive.
People are up 24 hours a day all over the world. It's just astounding.
I mean, now I think nothing of it. I mean, people instant message me all the time. From South Africa on Facebook. They're like, what's your website about? I mean, it happens all the time.
Yeah.
There's actually two of the biggest events that I'm enrolling in after the weather in our area gets better. We're going to have my friends from Lifeless and Sicker Than Most and, you know, Ten of Swords. We're doing a little festival, again, like I do every year.
Okay.
So
you have a life outside of Dan then?
Well, yes, it's
I'm promoting shows.
Booking
you're
beat
promoting
down and hardcore and metal and like melodic hardcore. Like I give my friends in the Regret and Truth Be Told. I Drive Through Fire. We put on these events and stuff, and people come out and the mosh. You get the mosh pit and you got kids dancing, letting go, and then the bar's open for people who want to drink and. We have a pool room and a pizza shop. It's all the same venue that we go to in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. This little, this little island I've created for those that need help, such as like Dan. Needs
like
he got his start.
Right. So he needs Dan, a platform.
He's now one of the big acts now.
Wow.
He brings in,
the owner. It took the owner. Himself. We love Joel, but it took him a long time to come around. He was nervous about me.
Now remember, he may hear this.
He might, but it's okay. He knows.
When your bar is making easily over $1,000 a night,
he started letting me do whatever I wanted.
Okay.
I didn't know this.
This guy's a draw.
These people would bring in, so it works out. One hand washes the other.
Sure.
We help out people who help us out, and it's not only in just there, but our friends in Psycho and Hanson, New York, they look out for us. Knuckle Up it has looked out for Dan in New Jersey. My friends in Lifeless and Sicker Than Most, and then Unit
Awake to the Nightmare. Did I say it right, Rick? Down in Louisiana.
Awaken to the Nightmare from Louisiana. Iron Will from
one of my
Georgia.
favorite places.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these different bands.
Vimo out in Missouri.
Wow, this is just an incredible network.
Yeah. It's just they're just punishing so greatly through crowds, getting all these big crowds to see them, and the kids who really, really have the drive to do things. And then you have someone like Dan who comes out of nowhere, out of left field in the early 2000s who say, I'm going to make a change. I want to do something different.
I want to be part of the change.
Yes, I'm disgusting at what I see. And I want to take a gray or a black or a white and mix all of them together, and add my own touch and put my own perspective on the world.
Oh, it's just
as
amazing.
if he's an
what
artist.
A story.
And Caitlin, I know we are getting off subject, and I just want to say it again because it's something you want to talk about. As far as helping and getting involved, back to the main topic, you can go to my website. You can write to me. Kelly is good for like very specific.
Yes, and again, we're going to have the interview with her in a couple of weeks. That's a very targeted audience.
And I think tonight you should talk to Zach too.
Yeah, we'll try to get Zach too.
So I'm an outsider, but I do what I do. But people can get involved. I think Zach is where you would really get some information on that.
Absolutely.
That's my opinion.
What a story, guys. Yeah. Unbelievable story. I mean, you listen to yourself talk to me and the hundreds of people who are going to hear this, and just the story is it's incredible. But it's how it had to be. Yeah. All starts are like this. They come from the dust and just rise up.
Okay, and one more time I want to emphasize, and I told this story on your station, but now that I got Rick here, I'd like to tell it again. I told you that story, how there was that one time, it was a specific episode. I was laying on my bed staring at the ceiling, like, you know, as Rick had said, I used to play in bands, and I hung it all up, and I felt this was going nowhere.
Okay.
And I just sat there like, what am I doing? Like, did I screw up? Nobody cares about this. This is never going to go anywhere. I'm telling you, that was at the beginning of the same summer when he approached me. I mean, it was like 2 months later.
The timing was phenomenal.
Little did I know, 2 months later, life was going to change big time. And here I was literally, you know, I don't think I was going to give up, but I definitely didn't care. I mean, I was like...
You had lost focus.
Yeah, I was like, you know, I mean, ultimately I said to myself, you know, there was a little voice that laughed at me like, dude, you know what? What else are you going to do? Like, okay, what are you going to quit this? In 3 weeks, you're going to read something in the paper. You're going to be angry again. You're going to be back tight.
Yep.
Right? So it wasn't like I completely give up, but I was kind of just like, you know, listen, I can't do anything more with this. If fate's going to have to intervene, because I ain't making this happen right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then Rick called me that summer. It was a couple months later. Finally, Rick was like,
way to
hey,
go,
I got
Rick.
an idea. Yeah.
First show with In Our Blood, which was my old band. We were on Rock Vegas Records, which is now thankfully defunct. But it was us and Bound by Regret and Few and Proud and Despite It All. And I put 2 bands, and then Dan, and then my band in Bound by Regret last. And he had one of the biggest crowds I had ever seen a room that size fit, which was probably, you saw the inside of this,
yes.
the same
it was
amount
a
of
packed
space.
show.
Wow.
It was packed, and people were standing and sitting on pool
Dan,
tables.
I'll
Even the owner rose up and listened, and he was very, very
That's
impressed.
wonderful.
and you saw my table, my setup
Yes,
in there.
I did.
I didn't have that at first. I had to put I had like 2 pamphlets and a sticker, and I put them on the pool table. I had nothing. I didn't really have a table. I didn't know if people would like the stuff. And I'll tell you another funny thing. My friend Bailey was in the crowd that night.
Mm-hmm.
She was up front watching this girl who I didn't really know. She contacted me a couple days later. She went on to become a friend of mine, and she's the one when we the most recent website we're doing, the outlookspeaks.org. She thought of that name when we said,
Okay.
what should we call this new and improved website? She said, how about the Outlook Speaks? So it's just weird how things all come together, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it is. It's just tremendous.
Yeah.
Absolutely tremendous.
It is.
Well, you made it here. The seeds are
did.
planted.
Yeah.
So all we can hope is that they will grow, and this is a temperate farming community.
Keep hammering away.
So chances are they'll grow.
Yes.
So we will look forward very much to having you here again.
Awesome. Yeah.
And
I will
we'll
be back.
keep watching.
Definitely be back.
We'll have you on the show again. We'll
Thank
post whatever links we can.
Yes.
And we'll just keep people empowered
Yes.
and help them find hope in their lives and hope in the future.
Awesome.
And we'll get it there.
That would be a very
So,
good start.
Richard, thank you so much
Thank you very much.
for everything you've done
You've
for
been-
us.
Been very cherishing.
Thanks for getting our keys out of my car. You can tell that story on the air another day.
We'll tell that
That'll make
another
it
time.
interesting.
We'll have to let
Yeah.
that age a little bit before we share
Yeah.
that. So, Dan, thanks for coming. I'm so
problem.
exciting meeting you
Thank
finally.
you, Kayla. It was nice meeting you in person. It's been quick. We talked on
Yes,
the
it
phone a
has.
couple weeks ago, and I'm already here, so thank you.
It's great.
And everyone, seriously, everyone's been really nice up here. And, thanks to everybody for checking out what I'm doing, and we will be back
Yep.
many more times,
And
I'm
we
sure.
we'll talk to you more. We'll
Yeah,
talk to you more.
definitely. We'll all be
So
in touch. So,
that's great.
great.
All right, we're out.
Awesome.
My thanks once again to Zach C. of New Society of Anarchy, Dan Lozzi and Richard Brophy, O'Keefe's Port of Hamburg, RiverwestRadio.com, and my technical insanity support, Steve M.